Hare Krishna, welcome to part 2, which is called Impetus to Go Back Home. So, as we discuss, this material world is not our place, and therefore, in the Vedas, they give another example or another analogy of how to describe this material world. They say that this material world is like a prison or jail or a correctional facility where people who are rebellious to the laws of the government or the laws of the state, they are placed into this facility to kind of rehabilitate themselves, to follow or to align themselves with the desires of the state or the desires of the country. Similarly, because we rebelled or we desired separate from the desires of the Supreme, we are placed into another facility, and in this prison-like jailhouse, we will naturally experience some punishments and some pains. Now, someone may say, it sounds very cruel, but we see many times that even the state's correctional facility, they ensure that prisoners get meals on time and they get, they get their clothes, they get facilities. So a lot of things are given. So even in this world, a lot of us have a lot of facilities. We have food, we have happiness, we have this, we have that. It's a whole other society going on here. And therefore, the pains and punishments experienced in this world become the impetus for us to go back home, back to Godhead. So two main things are actually the driving factor or the realizing factor of how that we are stuck in this jail. So just like when anyone goes to prison or a correctional facility, they first give you the prisoner's clothes. So similarly, when the jiva comes into this world, the jiva gets this gross body, which is like its uniform. Now, in some prisons, at least in the early age, they used to have that black and white stripes. And some places like in America, they have those orange jumpsuits. So, in the prison of the material world, the jiva has 8.4 million varieties of clothes that they can choose from. So, in one of the scriptures in the Vedas, the Padma Purana, they mention that there are 8.4 million species of life. Now, this is not the species that we have studied in biology and so on. These are 8.4 million different varieties of consciousness. So it's mentioned that you have 900,000 varieties of aquatics and 2 million varieties of non-movable objects like trees and so on, and 400,000 varieties of humans. So these are different gradations of consciousness and levels of advancement, from the most Neanderthal kind of pagan person to the most advanced, refined and highly advanced person. So these are like 400,000 varieties of consciousness, and therefore these are called as like species in the Vedic Shastra. So these are all different varieties of bodies which the jiva chooses life after life based on their desires. Now, another thing that is very common in correctional facilities or jails and whatnot is not only they give you some clothes, but at the same time, there is also the chains or the shackles that they used to bind the prisoners with. So similarly, all of us in this world are actually bound, but probably we're not realizing it. So first we have already the uniform, but we're also bound. What are we bound by? We are bound by 3 kinds of ropes, 3 kinds of chains. And these are the 3 modes of material nature: Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. The modes of goodness, the modes of passion, and the modes of ignorance. These modes are always constantly working on us, pulling us in different direction. What are these modes? We experience them all the time. They affect time, they affect place, they affect food, and they affect us in different ways. So in general, the mode of goodness gives one a sense of happiness, satisfaction, well-being, knowledge, complacency. Where one is so in Sattvagun, one feels that this world is not so bad. Life is nice. Rajogun makes one very passionate, makes one angry, makes one more desirous. And you see that in businessmen, and they want to just move forward and do things fast. And Tamogun, the mode of ignorance, is where one becomes very lazy, one becomes very dull, one becomes even very negative, and one becomes toxic. So, like that, there's always these modes of nature acting on us. In the time of the day, we find this influence. For example, early mornings are predominantly mode of goodness. People in the morning, they wake up, they feel very, they feel calm, and they feel like, there's a positivity. During the daytime, it's the mode of passion, and during the nights is the mode of ignorance. So you'll see a lot of crimes being committed at night, and places like bars and brothels and whatnot, they generally function at night because this is when the people's ignorance or tamogun increases for these kind of activities. Foods as well can be also divided in these three modes. Foods which increase your lifespan, which increase your knowledge, which makes you healthy, which actually nourishes you from within, which after eating makes you feel light and makes you feel happy. They are mode of goodness. Foods which are too spicy, too salty, and just makes you craving for more, although your belly is full, that is in the mode of passion. And foods which is putrid, which is decomposed, which harms you, which harms your body, that is actually food in the mode of ignorance, tamagun. So on and so forth, everything in this world, from your occupation, from the type of people, the bodies, animals, day, foods, everything is actually covered by these three modes of material nature. And like this, the jiva who has now come into this prison-like world has a cloth, has a body that is using as a uniform of this prison, has these invisible chains that controls its movement, and pains and punishment is also given onto the jiva. Only reason for all of this difficulty is, as in a correctional facility, for them to learn and improve themselves. So we need to also understand that this world is not ours. We are here somehow or other as prisoners or as visitors, and therefore we are forced to accept some body, some cloth. We are forced to be bound by this invisible effect that is coming on us, giving us goodness, passion, ignorance in a constant flux. And with that, therefore, there are a lot of punishments and pains. Only reason for us to actually just wake up and realize that this is not my place. Hare Krishna.